All right, there's another story in the news. I don't think he's going to get cut, but Shador Sanders once again has dominated NFL highlights and talk shows ad nauseum for the past week. This story is driving me crazy. The amount of absurd opinions that are out there on Shador Sanders, why he hasn't played great in the preseason, why he's not being the starter for the Cleveland Browns. It is absolutely off the charts. People have lost their minds when they're discussing Shador Sanders. I think it's because people are still bitter that they were wrong about him being a first-round pick. The NFL is always a meritocracy. It's what are you capable of actually accomplishing on the field? What are you showing when you're in college? Yes, I know he was a good college player, but he did not impress in the draft evaluation process, so he dropped. Did he drop a little further than I thought? Absolutely. I thought he was a second-round pick, maybe third at worst. He drops to the fifth. But because of that, because people don't want to admit they're wrong, they have to come up with these crazy ideas and conspiracy theories saying the whole world is against Shador Sanders. It is driving me nuts, man. I'm getting to the point where I can't even watch TV because every single story is coming up with some new, crazy, wild idea why Shador Sanders is getting screwed over by the NFL.
Yeah, and stories like the one we're about to touch on do not help when guys who are integrated in the league for 50 years are talking about people calling them. And, yeah, it's crazy. You don't know what's going on. You're hearing a million different things. I think I was with you in the same boat. I never thought he was a top 5 pick. Thought he'd play in the league, get a shot to play, maybe be average, be a really good backup, maybe, surprise us and be good. But, yeah, it has been crazier than I thought it would ever be for a guy where he stands right now. I mean, he's the headline every day. There was 7 or 8 quarterbacks taken before him. Cam Ward. Is he the luckiest quarterback in the league? Because Cam Ward, usually when you're number one, you come in with a ton of pressure.
Yes, and no one's mentioned him. I haven't seen one segment.
He's going to skate into week one. If he does great, cool. If he doesn't do great, that's fine too. I mean, it's wild. Other guys picked before him, you haven't heard a thing about.
I haven't seen one segment on any national show about Cam Ward. How is he going to be this year? How has he looked in the preseason? A couple of segments on NFL Network there talk a little bit about him, but in no way, shape, or form is it anywhere near the magnitude that Shador had as a 5th-round pick. And I think that's a disservice to Cam Ward because I think he's going to be pretty special.
So do I.
So it's one thing for me if you have hot take artists, people online, social media coming up with these crazy theories. Mm-hmm. It is another thing to me when you have Hall of Famers and former NFL players coming up with these theories. Mm-hmm. I think they're leaning into the clickbait. Eric Dickerson had one wild theory about why Shador Sanders dropped.
And I'll tell you this much here, what I heard from someone that's in the NFL, that the NFL told other, don't draft him. Do not draft him. We're gonna make an example out of him. And this came from a very good source. And he said that, I won't say who, somebody called the Cleveland Browns and said, don't do that. Draft
really?
him. Yep, draft him. Don't do that. Because they weren't going to draft him either. They weren't going to draft him.
All right, I have a question for you, Chris Manno.
Yes.
Why would the NFL be out to get Shador Sanders? That's my first question to Eric Dickerson or anybody that claims there's any validity to this story, which I think is the dumbest theory I've ever heard, that the NFL didn't want to draft Shador Sanders to, quote, teach him a lesson. What lesson did he need to learn?
Yeah, I asked myself the exact same question first because it's like flashy players get drafted every year. The kid's never been in any trouble. We saw a kid like Isaiah Bond, who was a special talent, who had a rumor about him doing something bad. He's been cleared since, and he didn't even get signed. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I said, why? And then I thought, you know what I immediately thought? I said, this is it's so bad for the league if it ever came out that something like this was a real thing. And I thought immediately, this guy's pop is so ingrained in the fabric of the league. How could anyone think that something like this could be, put into play and Dion not hear about it, right? Doesn't it seem like he's going to hear about it right away? There's no way we're going to be able to pull this off. It seems crazy.
It makes no sense whatsoever. And I'm legitimately trying to figure out what Eric Dickerson means. Like, they want to teach him a lesson. Why? Mm-hmm. Like, is it, all right, if it's because he's brash and he's cocky, has anybody listened to Cam Ward talk? We were just talking about him.
Yeah.
They're on video before their last years in college, jawing all kind of stuff against each other. Cam Ward is not like some buttoned up, quiet kid who's like your angel. He loves to talk trash too. He plays like an untraditional way of playing quarterback as well. I don't understand. Again, why would they try to teach him a lesson? Like, what has he done wrong? He hasn't done anything that anybody else hasn't done. It's way more trendy and in vogue to be a quarterback that talks a little trash, that has a little swagger than it's ever been before. The NFL is always a meritocracy. If you can play and you can ball out, they don't care what you do off the field. If you're worried about your brand, anything about it, they will draft you if you can play. Shador Sanders had some deficiencies in his game. Bottom line, that's why he dropped.
Yeah, that's the first thing you notice going from high school or college to the pros. This is how coaches put food on their table now. It is not a game no more. They're not playing their favorites anymore. If you can help the team more times than not, you're going to get in there. If you can't help the team, we talked about it, you're gone. At that level, it's just too important, and every roster spot is too important. If this guy can help the team, he was going to be one of the first picks in the draft. We see it every year. We see guys who have bad histories get signed over and over and over again. This kid's been, I'm telling you what, we talked about it last week, how I think he's done a really good job with the pressure.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I don't think he gave anybody a reason to say behind the scenes, we're going to teach this kid a lesson. I think it's crazy.
All right, so that theory I think is wild. I think it's incorrect. How about another former player? Chad Ochocinco was on Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharp. Have a listen to what he said. He thinks the coaches are derailing Shador Sanders' career on purpose with the play calling.
I'm not sure what game you guys are watching. Again, I state, Shedeur did play bad. He did. But why he played bad is clear as day if you understand the game of football and what he had to work with. Kevin Stefanski not letting Shedeur come back in the game to finish the 2-minute drill. Oh, I've never seen that before. I've never in my life ever have seen anything like that before. What are we doing? What are we doing? No disrespect to Snoop Huntley. Snoop is probably not going to be on the team. He's probably not going to be on the team. So I'm not sure what you were waiting to look. Snoop was on the team simply because quarterbacks were injured. So they brought in the extra body. Why not allow the players that are competing for a job, in this instance, Shador Sanders, to finish off the 2-minute drill?
Agreed.
Why? What are we doing? Who makes that call? He makes that call. Why? Because I want the last thing people to see. I want the last thing for people to remember is the mistakes and the sacks that happened and not give him a chance to redeem himself.
This has got to be the dumbest theory I've heard of all of them, potentially, from Chad Ochocinco. What are we even talking about? He's asking, what are we talking about? You know what happens in the NFL? If you play poorly, you get benched. Shedeur was playing awful. He had been sacked 5 times because he was hanging on the ball too long. He's making his offensive line look worse than they already were. And he said they wanted that to be the lasting memory. What if it got worse? It could have gotten worse. He could have been sacked 7 or 8 times or thrown a pick 6 or had anything worse happen because he was playing awful. In the preseason, when you're playing a lot of different guys, you shuttle a lot of different guys in. So when you're not playing well, you're going to get benched. You're going to get sat aside. You're going to let somebody else go out there. That's all it is. And to insinuate that Kevin Stefanski is calling different plays or he has a different offense for Shedeur when he's out there is insane. We're talking about a 2-time NFL Coach of the Year that is somehow derailing 1 third or 4th string quarterback's career. It's the most idiotic thing I've heard.
Yeah, I thought it was ridiculous too. I think it could be attributed to a number of things. I think he very well could have known Shador Sanders was going to be on the team already, right? He sat him down, let Snoop go in there. Snoop Huntley's a respected veteran, former Pro Bowler himself. I immediately thought, all right, cool. I thought Shador was a lock once they took him off the field then because I'm like, he doesn't need to see anymore. That's why he's going to let Snoop go in there and do his thing. And he did just that. He basically, the first 4 cuts of the next day were his O-line, and then his 5th was a tight end. So he's going to say, that's basically him to me saying, I don't think it was Shedeur why they were bad, but he didn't play great, but I thought they did him a service by getting him off the field and letting Snoop do his thing.
Do you think the conversation slows down now that the season has started? Joe Flacco will be starting for the Browns, or are they going to still, I say they, because it does have a faction of Shador Sanders backers. I still think, unfortunately, it depends on how Flacco plays. The minute the Flacco throws an interception or they have 2 interceptions and they lose, the very next day, people are going to say, why isn't Shedeur starting?
Well, it's the scariest thing about the social media era that we're in because in old days, it would have been, oh, crap, Joe Flacco's playing poorly. Kenny Pickett needs to go. Right. And then if Kenny Pickett gets hurt, it's, oh boy, Dylan Gabriel, the 3rd string quarterback, needs to go in. It's like how social media is interesting these days. You have these legions of fans who latch onto a player for whatever reason and will defend them or get on them to the death. And that's Shador's one of those guys who has like a hive. I think of Angel Reese. Yep. I think of guys like
back to Tim Tebow.
Tim Tebow, Johnny Football, that could do no wrong in some people's eyes and do no right in other people's eyes. And that's kind of That's the world we live in these days. Again, Shedeur, fourth string. In no other world is it even a discussion, but you're 100% right. Joe goes out there and throws a touchdown and 3 picks week 1. It's not going to be where's Pickett, where's Gabriel. It's going to be where's Shedeur, and it's just going to reignite. All
along, I've maintained, and I really haven't seen it change much, that Shedeur has handled this better than anybody in his hive or in his, like, that's supporting him. And I think that continues. He was asked after the game about his chances to make the team.
How do you feel? A couple days, 3 days until roster cutdowns. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like you belong here on this team?
Obviously, I think overall as a player, I feel like I put in the work. I feel like everything I do, I try to do it to my best, and that's all I ask for. So I feel like everybody feels like they should be on the team. And if you ask anybody on the team, would they feel like they belong, in their own eyes. So I feel like I do, but I'm my own player. I think about myself in a high regard.
See, I think Shedeur handles the media, handles criticism like a franchise quarterback. Yeah. That question was kind of dumb. Like, that's a hard question to ask somebody. And I think he wanted to say, he kind of gave her a little side eye, and he wanted to say something, but he used incredible restraint. Because he didn't say, what do you think? Like, of course I think I'm making the team. He gave her a very professional answer, which is what I can appreciate about him. He's handled all this great, and all the attention is not, he's not asking for it. It's everybody's giving it to him because they're already entrenched in their views on him.
Yeah, that look spoke 1,000 words. Yes. You know exactly what he thought. He's always been an alpha dog everywhere he go. The Sanders family do not lack confidence in themselves and their ability. And to be real, everywhere he's played, he's been a success. So he really doesn't have any reason to feel like he shouldn't be on the team. 100%. I'm right there with you on that one.